Hello everyone and welcome back to Make Believe, where we're playing World and Economica. Last time we talked to Lisa about getting a job and paying daily rent, and then we paid her enough for 20 days. We also talked about Hagan having a job as a teacher, and now it's the next day and we left the house. Let's see, what are we gonna do for today? What is Yoshiharu's plan? I believe it's Sunday, and that's why he's going out instead of working on the stock market. The moon was in the middle of a 2 week long afternoon, and the light that permeated the dome over this lunar city during this time felt rather good. Today, I could see Earth from the usual place. This yard had something of an extravagant feel to it, with a large tree growing very close to a cliff behind it. I wonder if the placement of the table and chairs were so Lisa and Hagana could enjoy the shade of the tree. The cliffs all around gave the place a feeling of isolation. It was a nice place. Right now, there was only the noise of the laundry machine. It was clear what belonged to whom. Looking over the jumble of streets of the sixth outer section, you could see someone on the roof casually reading something on a computer terminal and someone repairing a roof. Wait, I'm confused. So he didn't actually go out. He's just like on the roof or something? Or maybe just looking out the window? You could see bakeries and a dry cleaner, buildings spewing out water vapor from misshapen chimneys and homes under construction. However, my objective was to survey the area. It would be nice to scale the cliff in the back and roam around the plateau above, but I'd probably end up on someone's property and they'd call the cops on me. Yeah, that wouldn't be good. I moved nimbly between the houses seen from the park. Okay, so he's outside, really. I moved nimbly between the houses seen from the park, and having found the continuation of the path towards the top of the plateau, broke into a run as I left the park. What was before me was what I had seen from the park. Before me were the buildings of Newton City that pointed in the direction of Earth. So I'm guessing these buildings here. Okay, it's like a train or a machine. It's very soft. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I left the sixth outer section business district and got on board the rather boring named Lunar Development train. Okay, so it is a train. I was right. It literally was a train from the time that lunar surface was being developed. And at the station starting point and terminus, there was a diorama of an individual in a spacesuit doing work in the lunar desert. No matter how much you could visit it virtually on the net, tourists still flocked to the diorama as if showing some deference of gratitude as they took pictures of it. I don't know if showing gratitude's the reason why people take pictures of things like that. Once, someone had the bright idea of making an incision in it to accommodate a box, so tourists would mistake it for a donation box. Supposedly it was filled to the brim with coins. However, what that guy failed to realize was that after only a few hours, the foolish tourists would have filled the box with donations. Then they would complain to the station attendant that they couldn't put any more in. Thus, the plan was foiled. After that, capitalizing on that idiot's bright idea, the station attendant installed a large, unmarked box to collect small change from tourists. This was a classic example of a moment of carelessness toppling even a good get-rich scheme. There wasn't a lot of living space in the middle, so the lunar development train almost seemed to apologize as it shrank down and sped through the city. The train passed along the chaotic mismatch of buildings, and for a brief moment it was possible to look out the window to see into the lives of the people inside. Yeah, look. Oops. Look, out the window. You can see a lot, right? But I do appreciate those flashes of light going by. Really gives the feel of being on the train. The tourists took great amusement seeing their own country's culturally styled buildings and lifestyle. Of course, there were no cultural aspects I particularly saw that amused me at all. The moon was made up of a hodgepodge of immigrants. On top of that, it was a place where people who couldn't shake off Earth's gravity gathered, so the coloring was way too pale. That was why one could say that the line performed very well. Even those from my hometown who hoped to accomplish something would resolutely look coldly at all this. This was the moon, after all, not Earth. Every episode we have like a exposition moment, huh? As we passed each station, the townscape changed accordingly. From a chaotic atmosphere to orderly streets, the stateless nature of the place became more evident. Buildings both straight and with elegant curves that did not exist in the natural world multiplied as perfectly trimmed trees grew in number. We had entered the White Belt. Okay, so we're in the White Belt now. There were many advertisements within the train directed at the typical salaryman, with information on insurance for families. Do I remember what he described to be in the White Belt? Not really. I think it's like the outer layer of the central. Yeah, I had no idea. Again, the ground gradually lowered and the train slowly separated from it. The beautiful cityscape unfolded below, and soon we were traveling at a height equal to that of a 10-story building. No matter how beautiful a building was, there would still be provisions for the many complexities in life, as one would expect. Everywhere you looked, the green parts could be seen, and one could look down to see large canals. There we go, we're actually seeing something. In contrast, far in the distance, one could see the chaotic town of Red Valley. I was impressed that they would dare come up with names like White Belt and Red Valley. Isn't there like Green City as well? As I thought about that, the train suddenly picked up a burst of speed. Along the streets below, all that could be seen were residential commercial buildings, like a district of cold buildings. Now that we reach a height of 20 stories, we stopped being able to see the tops of buildings passing by. Beyond the glass windows, one could see the busy salarymen as electronics billboards started to flood into the view. Beyond, before long, as if the train went right into thick forest, we were covered in shadows. The vision was reduced greatly for a moment. Wait, so you're going higher, but you're covered in shadows now? The train continued to navigate through groups of nearby buildings by going around them. Then suddenly, my vision cleared up again. This was a large plaza before the Newton City Central Station. The vastness of the gigantic atrium would amaze not only travelers from Earth, but even those raised on the moon. At 162 meters above ground, not 10,000 meters, nanowires held up massive clock and hologram screens right in midair. The train continued along the side of the large plaza and was eventually swallowed up within the terminal station. It, like Lunar City, can be considered a gathering of the highest level of wealth and honor for mankind. Ooh. And we got some music. Some new soundtrack too. Ooh, it picked up. Okay, okay. I just like that moment there just felt like there were lyrics gonna come out. But of course there aren't. I gotta. Okay, now the music is very distracting. I got the train and counted the number of advertisements that came to view. There were 3 from nanotech companies, 4 from major software corporations, 2 from biotech firms, 2 from insurance company, and 6 from banks. And then there were 5 from investment banks. Each and every one of them was famous for the rate of earning and prideful of their proceeds. And they had the task of sweeping up all the proceeds from the wealth on Earth and pumping to this lunar city. But the music is plumping up, like make things feel energetic. Listing the world's companies in order of market cap, within the top 100 companies, 37 of them were on the moon. It's more than one would find in London or New York. More than one-third of them. Nice. The number of companies abandoning Earth and setting up their main office here were great. And the number that wanted to strike it big was even greater. Which is surprising considering that technically, apparently there's not a lot of people on the moon. And they choose to abandon Earth to move to the moon. So there's less customers. Okay. New frontiers gathered up the brightest of folks. In this area, as long as you had a talented mind and a net connection, you could come out on top. And that's Yoshiharu's plan. The moon was different from the Earth, where everything the eye could see had been developed, owing to a long history and old geezers with immense power sitting high up on their thrones. Some random country couldn't monopolize power here, and because of the nuclear crisis, countries everywhere shied away from the bomb. Thus, the moon was literally an empty place with no external annoyances. Even placing second or third in a race to come here would still be more than enough for someone to become a key figure in the city. Though their footprints were no longer displayed along with the others in the Sea of Tranquility Memorial Hall, without a doubt they stood on the forefront of humanity. For example, there was a bronze bust in front of the central entrance of the central city. Is there? Okay, I cannot see it here. I was wondering if I could see that bust in this image. The model of this overly serious faced statue that seems to look down on pedestrians was E.J. Rockberg, who people said would simply end up as an excellent banker had he stayed on Earth. Right now, he was a CEO of a top-class investment bank here on the moon. At merely 29, he got involved in investing the lunar development train. A little older than me, huh? In those days, he worked vigorously in lunar development, which few people regarded with much interest, as he gambled upon mankind's career and everything he had. That got the ball rolling. On Earth, stories were told about how he built a city from nothing, although many key figures would say that very few people understood what that really meant. Just that they rode the wave well, they said. I supported those sentiments, even though everyone knew that how they all approached it was less than ideal. At any rate, even though my parents came to the moon at the same time that E.J. Rockberg did, it was evident in the difference in income levels. They worked at leveling the rock to put it in soil for the growing and harvesting of crops. Was that not a job for trillions of years before? And on that note, it would have been easier to just have done that back on Earth. That was why I made sure to remind myself of this sometimes by coming all the way out to Newton City by train. Particularly, it was a place that those with little training or education would oftentimes find their big break in the city. If you left the station headed in the opposite direction of the plaza, right before your eyes was a path on the right-hand side of the towering building of the lunar government. Among the many glass-filled buildings in Newton City, there were many that were built using material cut from dark rock. Can I see some of those buildings? Because of that, they look plain at first glance. But in my opinion, it is something that gives off an intimidating air. Like something with an unequally powerful gravitational pull. That was a financial district, where banks and investment banks set up shop. Pointing to the street was a simple sign that said, Schrödinger Street. Is it a street or it is not a street? You only find out when you get there. And there, next to it, was a bronze statue of a small cat. Oh, I see. I get the cat now. That Schrödinger Street. Look at that. Schrödinger Street. And the cat, and the bronze cat. Schrödinger's cat. The cat had this sly expression inside as it lay sprawled with one foot on a single gold plate. Engraved on the gold plate was this. You can't know the outcome until you open the box. Yup, Schrödinger's cat. I thought that this was most appropriate for the financial district. Although I hadn't succumbed to any religious beliefs here on the moon, I saw nothing wrong with patting the cat for good luck. I pat the cat on its head and ran my finger along the outline of the gold plate. You can't know the outcome until you open the box. I came here for the sake of telling myself these words. There were many people who went from being mere errand runners to become the masters of the giant buildings that line the streets. I literally came to recharge my spirits here. Oh, that's nice. I like that. Good idea, Yoshiharu. Schrödinger Street on the weekend was pretty much filled with tourists like me. There were only a few taxis running around, not to mention the total lack of black luxury cars. You could see busy looking people in suits, but the security guards in front of the 5-meter front entrance to the buildings were yawning out of boredom. There was a hot dog stand along the road. It was so famous that people ranged from hotshot bankers and traders making $1 million a month to the 6-mile-an-hour mailman would all congregate and eat there. Oh, interesting. How both the rich and the poor all like that hot dog stand. I heard that it was great being able to get your dog 10 seconds after ordering and then eat it with one hand. People who go to burger joints to eat a meal were considered second rate, and people who go buy box lunch were just laughingstock. Huh, that's interesting. Thus, being caught up in the flow of walking along the street, I bought a hot dog. Working on a day off, the vendor said something along those lines and placed a fat sausage in the bun. I didn't even think about replying along the lines of, "Don't treat me like a fool, I at least have a stable income." Of course, Yoshiharu really think of going aggressive, but I at least appreciate that he's thinking of going aggressive, not just doing it. Being treated as one of the regular seals filled me with joy. To me, making money was a means and not an end. However, after thinking long and hard about it, the fastest way to get rich had to be here. When I had come to that decision, I felt a great reverence for the people at the head of the pack here. And with that, I realized that I actually did have a bit of fanboyism in me. Yeah, you like this place and everyone here, and that works in this area. So I thanked the guy and paid my respects to the people passing by and walked off more fidgety than usual. See, you thanked the guy and paid respects to the people. See, you can't be nice, so Yoshiharu. Ooh, I like this shot. Him walking around the street with a hot dog. There's a janitor. Then, I guess a photographer and perhaps his assistant. And then somebody leaving a building and just other people in suits and such walking by. The main office of E.J. Rockberg, with top-tier investment banks like Hallett Gross and Platinum Smith not far behind, established their massive buildings here. In order to make the most efficient use of space, Lunar City was divided into 3 levels. They were the underground level, the above ground level, and the sky level. I was currently in the sky level, and the main entrance for all the buildings were here. Below this were related companies and rented out office space. Wait, hold up. I'm sorry, I forgot how to... Yeah. With top tier, in order to make the most efficient 3 levels, there were underground, above ground, and sky level. Yeah, there you go. I just spaced out and did not remember what were the levels on the sky level, so I just want to make sure what there were. Underground, above ground, and sky. Got it. Below this were related companies and rented out office space. The underground and above ground levels portions, and there's saying the levels again. I did not need to go back. I'm fine with it. Portions of the building on Schrödinger Street were filled with countless funds and consulting agencies. While walking around eating my hot dog, I would occasionally come across narrow and compact buildings with gilded signs and atrium adorned with chandeliers and paintings. These weren't places where money exchanged hands, but rather places where those with enormous sums of money obtained official legal guarantees. Top-class law firms, accounting firms, and government outlets resided here. After walking a bit more, I arrived at an intersection. In front of me was a strangely shaped edifice that reminded me of the Colosseum in Rome. The entrance was those of floors above the pavement. was dozens of floor above the pavement, and the stairs leading up to it formed some plaza, and I don't know why that sentence was so hard to read. It was such a special place that it was allowed to use up this much space. I want to see this building that you're talking about. Occupying the intersection between Schrödinger Street and Bit Street, which was made up of software and media companies. I like to be on Bit Street. Probably work there. The Lunar United Stock Exchange could be called the city's source of wealth. It was a place where stocks from companies all over the world, not just from the moon, were traded. It was the pride of the world. Combined with various future markets, trillions of mu exchange hands every day. There were a lot of tourists and a lot of people crowded around the standard bronze statue at the entrance, taking pictures. You could say that this was a pinnacle of capitalism and humanity expansion. The entrance was wedged between giant screens displaying market information 24 hours a day. Currently airing was a discussion between the vice manager of the Lunar Central Bank and the famous CEO of Platinum Smith of the relaxations of regulations. Both of them were in their mid-40s and could be considered quite young by Earth standards. On the moon, someone in their mid-40s would be considered elderly, although these two were still full of confidence and energy. Really, mid-40s is elderly here. Wow. I lean against the giant steps. But wait, are you saying that because you're young, or does everyone think that? The way you phrase it does seem like everyone thinks that, but considering the one telling me this is a young kid. Well, anyways, I leaned against the giant steps of the stock exchange and ate the rest of my hot dog slowly. Everything here was big, vast, and solid. Being a little brat, not even worth a scrap of tissue, buying a hot dog was the most that I could do here. However, I'll use one computer in my bag to make money and eventually become one major player soon. That wasn't much more than the first step in achieving my dream, but attaching specific milestones to my goal made me think of how rational it was. However, there were many people who managed to pull it off in the past. Thus, there shouldn't be any reason I couldn't do it. Yeah. Being able to is one thing, but are you gonna manage to do it? That's on you. I want to be able to understand without looking with eyes wide open. The CEO of Platinum Smith, who was talking on the screen, had a... Oh, right. I was just thinking, like, one was the vice president and the other was the CEO. I thought it was the other way around. Like, it was the vice president of Platinum Smith. But no, it was the vice president of the lunar market, stock market. And the CEO of Platinum Smith. Anyways, the CEO of Platinum Smith, who was talking on the screen, had their yearly salary of 37 million moles, being the highest among all the major enterprises here in Schrödinger Street. Normal people would be quite satisfied at making 2 million moles over their lifetime. So no one would disagree that this yearly salary was monstrous. However, there were also people who made at least 1 billion moles a year working this office. Wait, what? Oops. Who was talking had a yearly salary of 37 million. However, there were also many people who made at least 1 billion moles a year. So they made more money than the CEO of Platinum Smith, and that he was one of the highest among all the major enterprises. What? I'm confused here. Anyway, these were hotshots whose salary definitely had teeth to them, and they made tons of money using their expertise and behaved almost like lone wolves. These were the people I looked up to in adoration, since I had neither a real education background nor a financial background. My ambitions had still not been fulfilled, so I could only watch them here. But eventually, I would stand shoulder to shoulder with them as either rivals or comrades, instead of looking at them from a distance. They were unmistakably unmistakably billionaires, holding on to the majorities of the wealth in this world. Money. Just money. The objective of my unbearable desire circulated here like a whirlpool. I squashed the hot dog wrapper and stood up impatiently. Time to head back and look for more money-giving trees. And eventually, I would become someone who would be acknowledged here. And then, after that, while on the train, I fixed my hold on my bag while staring at the giant panoply of Newton City's receding buildings. Back on the train. Choo-choo. Oh, what? What is this? Who are you? So we're finally getting the introduction of the game. We're only, what, 10 episodes in? Oh my god. I had no idea that was coming, and I very much enjoy that. I I feel like that's just the perfect stop point. Like I I could keep going a little longer, but I don't know. That just felt like a perfect moment. Like we finally got done with the game's introduction. Hopefully we'll have less exposition now, but yeah, like I don't have any words to describe that. So with that being said, we're done for today. So see you next time. Bye.